Hey everybody! In last week's video, we wrapped up our exploration of object-oriented programming through our discussion on inheritance and its relationship with interfaces. Today, as a continuation of the Java July series, we'll be changing gears and focusing on arrays, a topic that makes up 10 to 15% of the AP Computer Science A exam and is an important concept in Java and other OOP languages. To begin, let's understand the use and importance of arrays. In your Java code, you may have already dealt with managing multiple variables to store important information in your programs. Oftentimes, you treated these variables as separate entities, declaring and initializing your variables on separate lines, which takes up more space in your console. But what happens when you have to create 100 variables? It may be too difficult to set up the initial values for each variable on separate lines, and this in turn complicates the process to call on each item of information. Arrays can help prevent this situation by grouping similar data and object types together and arranging them into a list, with each variable getting its own numbered slot. This makes it easier to call on each variable, as you can point to the variable you want from the array and get access to the respective value of the variable. Note that an array slots are numbered starting from 0, so an array with 10 elements are accessed using the numbers 0 through 9, 5 elements are accessed with numbers 0 through 4, and so on. Therefore, for an array with 6 elements, calling on the slot numbered 1 would actually get you the second value in the list. Conversely, for a 6-element array, it's impossible to call on slot number 6, and doing so would actually return an error by the computer. Also, arrays contain any type of information that is stored in a variable, whether it be an int, double, float, boolean, string, etc. However, once you create your array, you can only use it for that one information type. What's more, Java treats arrays like objects, and so as we will see when creating our arrays, they have a similar initialization process to the creation of objects in Java. To create an array in Java, we need to first declare a variable to hold the array. Array variables indicate the name of the array and the object or data type the array will hold. Array variable declarations are different from regular variable declarations, as they use a pair of empty brackets, which can be placed next to the information type or next to the array name. Both declaration types are valid and will do the same thing, i.e., notify the compiler to create memory space for the upcoming array. Picking one style over another is purely personal preference. After declaring the array variable, we can create an array object to assign to the variable by using the new operator and initializing the contents of the array. When you create an array object using new, you must indicate how many slots the array will hold. Note, though, that in these statements, we are not putting actual string objects, int variables or char variables, into those slots. We are only dictating how many slots are available for each array, 4 for the first array, 7 for the second, and so on. Instead, they receive default values, like null for objects, 0 for numeric arrays, the /0 for character arrays, and false for boolean. From here, we can initialize the values for each array slot through the following expression examples, where the value of a slot is accessed using the array name followed by a subscript enclosed within brackets. We can see what each element of the array looks like through the following for loops, which iterate through the array and print out the respective elements like so. If you want a review of what for loops are and how to implement them, be sure to check out my previous video on control structures. We can also combine all 3 of the previous steps into one statement for each array type, as shown here. This is usually done when we know both the size of the array and the variables of the array. When creating arrays like this with initial values, the size of the array is equivalent to the number of elements we've included within the curly braces. Therefore, we are again creating 4 memory slots for the variables in the string array, 7 for the int array, 9 for the char array, and 5 for the boolean array. However, instead of each slot automatically being assigned a default value, we are defining what we want to be in each spot. In today's video, we learned about arrays, their important characteristics, and how they are created in Java. In next week's video, we'll be working with array elements, understanding how to access and change their value, along with a discussion on how multi-dimensional arrays work in Java. Until then, be sure to check out my previous video on array lists and see how this programming concept is similar to and differs from arrays. Hope this helped.